happy about you asking about the XXL
Yeah.
because that's one of my most misunderstood product and one of my favorite product. Okay, a lot of people didn't get it. They didn't
Oh,
get what it does and how it does it. And many people said like I'm turning the warp and it doesn't work.
it
Doesn't
doesn't
work
work. Oh,
because they didn't know how to use it. Like what it's supposed to do, and they thought it was broken. But you have to have a certain style of playing to use that. But originally, the whole idea came from I have a collection of Marshalls. Actually,
yeah.
it's I'll show you if you can see. Um, way back there. See, it's like the
Oh my
guitar
God.
four,
Yeah.
five. Actually, I have six. Right. Anyway, so I always analyze them, and I noticed that there was something like they do, which is that squeezing of the sound, that no distortion box did, or no box did. Like all these diode clippers, they just chop off the top and the bottom, and that's it.
Yes.
So it's the whole sound is very like uniform, like monophonic, like almost like those old synths that you pushed hard or soft, it always plays the same. So that's the problem with a lot of distortion boxes that they do that. But
Yeah.
amps, on the other hand, they're dynamic, right? So you can modulate how they sound, how loud they sound, even though they are distorted. So I was set out to do something about it, and this was like, I don't know, 20 years ago. And that's how the XXL was born. So
But
hopefully you understand what the XXL is, and that's why you asked about it. But I was very excited when you asked about it because, as I said, it's one of my babies, that people just never really understood properly.
ah,
And I'm glad that there are some people who.
because I access I have been, I mean, actively interested in guitar gear from the late 80s, basically. So nothing has passed my way without me noticing it. And XSL, of course, came to the market, and of course I knew about it. But the thing is, I was doing a recording, and I told the guy, and it was a simple recording with just a few songs, and we didn't want to mic up a real amp or anything. I said, just get me a good distortion box and just record it straight into the mixer, basically. And they pulled out this one,
Mm.
and I plugged in my guitar, and it just straight into the mixer, and it just
Really, because this one doesn't have a
filled the room.
speaker.
And I'm guessing that's not how it's supposed to be used.
No, 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 no. But Led Zeppelin did that too. They just plugged in direct to the mixer for like the song Black Dog,
Yeah.
and they got this a very unique sound. So same thing with the XXL. It's not meant to be going direct,
No.
but I guess you can.
The thing is, because it adds low end, and it just filled so much. Because I'm the only, there's like a drummer, and then there's me. It's just two persons, so I'm not
I,
competing with a bass player. And then this just filled the entire spectrum besides the drums and the singing. So it was great to have that, just this pedal. Well, let's go back then to the idea of this pedal. Why did you design it, and how's it supposed to be used?
well, as I said, like I was missing all other boxes that feature that it's kind of like compresses the sound. There's a technical aspect of it. I can talk about it. A lot of people are not going to
Sure.
understand. But basically, when you clip a signal, you symmetrically clip it. It's called a duty cycle. How much you have of one cycle and
Mm-hmm.
then the other cycle compare. So when the duty cycle, like in synthesizers, you can adjust that. When it gets narrower, you get more of the even harmonics. Okay? And even harmonics are like making the sound much thicker. And most distortion boxes, they generate only odd harmonics because they symmetrically clip, but they don't modulate the duty cycle. That's what it's called, the width of the signal.
Mm.
And
What would be an example of that? What kind of pedal? It's like a distortion, regular Boss
well,
distortion.
back then when I designed this, was not many things out on the market, not like now there's over 2,000 distortion boxes. But for example, like the MXR distortion plus.
Plus, yeah. Mm.
Yeah, there's a clipper, and it's good, but you still need a good amp to make it as a combination to make it into a good sound. Otherwise, it's very like monophonic. It doesn't have any dynamics to it. So what happens is that I wanted to build a box that gives you that. And by the way, even tube amps, they don't do this until you really turn them up real loud. So what I wanted to do is have a box that does this, and you can control your amp at the lower volume, but you still get that thick, sound.
Mm.
And that's how the XXL was born. And when you plug it into, for example, an amp, it was really designed plugged into an amp like a normal channel on a Marshall. So you're not getting the extra brightness. And then you get a very thick sound that you can really modulate the sound with palm muting or soft picking or hard picking. It gives you a lot of different tonalities that you don't get from other boxes.
Mm. Mm. Let's talk about
what you did. Yeah.
Just the control and the warp control. You talked about it yourself, but just
that's the one. Yes.
To explain what it actually does.
Yeah, that's what it does. It adds the even harmonics. As a matter of fact,
okay.
When you hook it up to an oscilloscope, you can see that it not only clips the signal on the top and on the bottom, but also squeezes it like horizontally. And it does some other trickery. But you're right. Also, the tone control is unusual. It's not your normal tone control. That was also developed because I find that many times guitar amps, you put on your pedal and all the bottom drops out. There's no more bottom left because your pedal cuts bottom to make it nice and tight, but doesn't add it back on. So I addressed that problem with a unique tone control. And by the way, like anytime that I set out to design a product, I always try to design something that is unique, because why just copy somebody else's design? In every respect, I always try to create something that is new. And by the way, it's a good example of this pedal that was picked up by Metallica, the bass player, actually.
Oh, really?
Originally, Jason Newsted used this. And then when the new bass player came on board, Trujillo, yeah, they actually made him buy it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he had to come on board with the same XXL because it had a very particular sound on bass.
Oh, really?
I designed it for guitar, but I tell you, a lot of time, guitar products work really well on bass. And I guess that's one of the reasons what you discovered is that the low end is so powerful that I think it was really useful for bass also.
Oh, probably.
Yeah. But it's interesting what you said. So it's almost like your band is like a White Stripes.
Yes,
the original.
It is. Very much so.
And a guitar player who fills up the full spectrum.
Yes, because normally I use an octave pedal to really give me a lot of low end. But with this, I used an octave pedal as well, but this really filled the space.
That's great.
You talked about a lot of people misusing this and misunderstanding it. What were they doing, and how have they been using it wrong?
Well, as I said, like they're turning the warp control, and they're not hearing the difference. Mm-hmm. Because one of the reasons is that if you play very lightly on your guitar, you're not actually triggering that effect. So when you dig in and the warp is turned up, then you're going to hear like the attack becomes different. But there are people who play very lightly, like the pick attack is very light, they're hardly touching the strings. They're not going to hear the difference, So as I said, we used to have like in the service problems, people who, calling, I want to send it back because
It's
I'm
broken.
turning the knob and it's not doing anything. So that's how they were misusing it. They got the distortion part and the tone, but the warp was always like kind of like, what does that do? I didn't understand. Warp is basically means in English like also a distortion, but a different kind. You're warping, like for example, you're warping like a piece of metal, it's warped,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's distorted, it's not straight. That's how the name came about, also calling it warp, because it's not your normal distortion.
You have a history for using names for your controls that other brands don't use.
Right.
I'm thinking about the crunch, the punch, the bus,
Yeah,
and
that's right. As a matter of fact, we have the new, pedal.
yes,
It's here, the
PSA.
PSA pedal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that one has it right there. Where is it? Here, buzz, right? But it does that. When you turn the buzz up, it starts to be buzzy. Your sound is, and a punch just cuts through, and the crunch makes it nice and crunchy. Because it's not conventional controls,
No.
So that's why I always try to come up with a name for those controls that describes what it does, but people don't get confused that I don't know, if I would call it like distortion, then they don't understand. Like distortion is distortion, but buzz describes a type of distortion that happens on the low end. So yeah, I try to do that as much as I can.
I think it's really fun. Yeah, just to be out of the ordinary, to do something, like you said, to do something different that no one else is doing. It's
right. Well, that's why, I got into this business to begin with, because I felt it's just like when you're a musician and you feel you have something to say, not just playing other people's song, but you have your own song and you want to say something. So I felt the same way about electronics, that I felt that I have something to say, something to offer, something that is different. And that's how the original classic was born in 1989, that nobody made a box that you could just plug in directly to the mixer and you get different amp sounds. So, I was really lucky to be in the forefront of that revolution that now is like, it's everywhere.
Is everywhere.
Yeah. But then we were basically, the company was like a pioneer of doing that. The only thing I can think of before us was the Rockman.
I'm thinking that myself. I was thinking, because I was going to go and ask you if there was another product on the market, and I could only think about the Rockman as well.
Right. And the Rockman was really not an amp simulation.
It was really just one sound, wasn't it?
Exactly. It's a very mid-rangey, like the Boston sound, which is a great sound for that particular genre.
Yeah.
But I wanted to have something more and more organic, more like amp-like instead of like a processor-like. Back then, I remember everybody had these huge refrigerators full of rack processors, and everything sounded so processed. And I like natural sounding distortion in guitars, like when you just plug in and turn it up and it's powerful. I didn't like it so much processing. Of course, it has its place, but when you're overdoing it, then it takes over the music, and the music should be always number one, and all the effects and all the other things should be in the background, emphasizing what you're trying to do, not taking over.
Exactly. And I think a new thing, not only that, to have something that you can plug in, but to have all these options. That is not just, as I said, like for the Rockman, where you have one sound. You have like 9 switches. You can control the pedal and make it sound completely different, from a clean amp to a full-on distortion amp.
Right.
That was unheard of. There was nothing like it at all.
I know that's another story, is that I showed it to Mick Jones from Foreigner. He was one of my clients. I had a repair shop in Manhattan, and the switches were on it. And I said, Mick, I just want you to figure out what's the best setting, and I'm going to take the switch off and just make you a pedal like that.
Really?
He says, no. He says, the switch is the best part. Leave it on. So that's how we left the switch on. But yeah, we have some really cool stories, like from the beginning of the company, because I was lucky enough to meet a lot of famous people, being in Manhattan, and people coming through. And the first 6 pedals were sold to people like people Kiss and Def Leppard. Just should think who else, like Joe Walsh, um, Nirvana. Nirvana had 6 of our pedal, the original one, because he kept picking.
Quite a good client list, isn't it?
Yeah. I have a little book that we wrote down, like all the people we sold it to, and it's like the who's who of
Really?
rock and even jazz. We had like jazz players and even people like from the Gypsy Kings, the bass player used the product, and all genres. And that was actually my other goal. I didn't want to pigeonhole my products into like one genre, let's say heavy metal or hard rock. I love all music, I think everybody should actually. You could, this is music because right? I wanted to create something that basically all musicians can use, and ended up like Les Paul used my amp that I designed for 10 years of his life, and he played every Monday here in Manhattan on that amp, and I used to visit him, and that was a great honor, to have one of the pioneers of the electric guitar using my product. So we go back, it's so many stories that it's unbelievable. But as I said, you picked up on one product that is one of my favorites because it's so different and is so misunderstood. It's like when you write a song that you really believe in and love it, and nobody else really picks up on it. You pick up on some other song that you're not even into. But that's how life is. You never know which of your product or music gonna make it and which one doesn't.
Of course. Is there another product that you made through the years that hasn't like gotten that popular that you thought would be the big thing besides the XXL?
Yeah, no, it was a couple. I'm trying to think because it's so many products.
You talked about amps. I was gonna say hello from my uncle, by the way. He traded his vintage Vox AC30 and got one of the trademark 60s.
Right. Well, that's actually a pretty good example of that, because the trademark 60 took a very long time to get acceptance because it was solid state, and people kept saying that solid state amps don't sound good, even though this one was really designed differently. And so that was, but by the end, it was really, understood and picked up. So I cannot complain about that. But in the beginning, it was a really difficult, journey to have people accept that a solid state amp can sound really good.
Is this something that explains why, in general, you have had more success with bass players with all your products?
Probably. Yeah, that's true.
They seem to be so much more open to solid state products.
Exactly. But now I think there's a change in there because of the new technology of modeling guitar amps.
Definitely.
So guitar players are also started to gravitate towards non-tube amps, because if you already have like a modeling preamp, then what's the point of getting a tube amp after that? You just need a clean amplification and a good quality monitoring. So, I think there's more acceptance now. But back then in the 80s and the 90s, I think that was really uphill battle, with guitar players to try to have them, even a pedal. A lot of time people I remember that Hugh and Kettner came out with a product similar to the original SansAmp. It was the Tube Man. So basically it was a SansAmp with a tube in it, right? That was the twist on it. And the people were like, yeah, it has a tube in it.
So much better.
Yeah, so much better. And then when you recorded it and you did like a double blindfold test, you couldn't tell the difference. But people many times hear with their eyes and, there's a tube, it must sound better,
Oh, yeah.
So, But the amps, yeah, that would be a good example of not being accepted for a long time. And now we actually stopped making it for other reasons because amps are so difficult to produce, expensive to make, shipping is very expensive, and a lot of people don't play out anymore, especially with the
No,
COVID,
no,
right? So people playing at home in their studio, and they don't need amps, you know?
no.
So it's really not profitable to make an amp and ship it all the way to Europe, you know? And
Hmm.
it's so many issues with that. So
Of course.
we started to do more and more with the pedals, you know, like do the FlyRig now. So you can do like a whole gig and you just take like a FlyRig that has the effects in it,
Yeah,
like we
yeah,
work with Richie Kotzen on that, and you can fly to Brazil and play your whole gig and then fly back. So, you know, that's the modern, you know, way of doing, shows because nobody has the money or the time to have huge, except maybe a couple top bands, but that's it.
yeah,
Like if you're a smaller band, you cannot travel with a lot of equipment.
yeah.
So I guess you also like play out, or is that pretty much like
Yes.
done right now because of the COVID?
And well, because of COVID, it's all closed down. It's all live, web-based. It's all
Web,
live streams. That's all we do at all.
right.
But I guess how does this affected your business, by the way?
Thought is going to, we realized that there was a little
Everyone's
dip.
home, everyone's home playing guitar now.
Yeah, exactly. So there was a little dip when everybody got scared.
Huh?
And then all of a sudden it's just ramped up. So now it's even better than before, because people need to do something and you
Yes.
can't play video games all day, So I guess they become more creative, playing more music. And so I'm
Yeah.
very lucky and blessed that, our business didn't suffer. Like if you own a restaurant, that's a tragic
Oh, yeah. Or
situation.
yeah, any kind of gig place or anything where people are supposed to be gathering.
Yeah, but you
They
need
shut.
to like readjust yourself. Like if you're a
Yeah.
musician, as you said, you need to do more, online. And we
Yeah.
actually setting up right now a studio here so we can do more online stuff and explain the products, talk
Mm.
about the products. So probably in a couple months, we're going to start to release,
Oh,
some of the things we're going to record and explain about things exactly what we are doing right now.
no. Awesome. That sounds great. Where are your products made? Are they all made at the place where you're at now? Do you
Yeah,
have a
actually,
separate?
if this camera would be movable, it's plugged in on my desktop. I could walk out there
Yeah.
and show you like full, building it right now. It's built right here. Of course, some of the sub-assemblies, like the chassis, is made
Hmm.
somewhere else. But we assemble everything right here, and final quality control and packaging is all done here.
Oh,
And
really?
we have a great crew,
Mm.
uh, and we want to keep it that way because there's something about the quality that you have a hands-on, and I can walk out there anytime and see what's going on and make sure that everything is built 100%. We have very, very good reliability with our
Hmm.
products. And I find that that's very important because when you're a musician, last thing you want to see is like your equipment breaking
Mm.
during a
Yeah.
show. Everybody's looking
Sure.
at you and then he's like, what's going on?
But that's different from a lot of other companies. They're all doing the products overseas
Yeah, yeah, I
and
know. And,
in China.
we had some experiments with that. We had like a wall pedal. Uh, it's right here. This one actually was made in Brazil, of all
Oh,
places.
Brazil. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and this is out of production now. But it was an interesting experiment. It was a friend of ours who was a distributor in Brazil too, and
Mm.
he asked if we want to, sell a wall pedal because they're making one,
Mm.
and we said like let's look at it, and we retuned it a little bit to our specs, and then they made it, and we had people like Michael Schenker, he used it, and
Oh, really?
bunch of like well-known musicians. So we did a little experiment with that, and you know, I'm open to it, but ultimately, I still want to keep as much as possible here in the U.S.
Mm. But you never attempted to go to, for instance, China or Indonesia, or where
Well,
everyone else is
there
making the
are
product.
certain things that you have to actually. For example, like transformers now, it's
Hmm.
impossible to get in the US at a reasonable cost.
Mm.
So, for example, our power supplies, uh, this is one of them, uh, they are made in China
Oh, really? Yeah.
because, these little things, it's impossible to have it anywhere else made.
Mm.
The price would be prohibitive, like I
Mm.
would say 4 or 5 times. So
Oh, really?
right now these are retail, let's say $15. Nobody's going to pay $60
Mm.
for something like this. But we get really good quality. If you can see, like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
cable is really nice, has an extra filter on it, at the end to get
Oh,
rid of
really?
radio
Okay.
frequency.
Yeah.
So, we try to, and also, see, this is the US plug. You can take this
Mm.
off, and you can put in the European or the
Ah,
Australian.
brilliant. Brilliant.
So even though it's made in China, we try to get the highest and best quality. And don't
Mm.
forget, like basically all the Boss power supplies, they all made in China also.
Yeah,
Uh,
of course.
iPhones made in China. So there's quality, but you have to do the best suppliers.
Yeah.
So certain things we do have to go offshore, but things that we can do here, we try to do here as much as we can.
Mm. Mm. So what are you most excited about now in your product range? What's the big thing? Is it the new PSA
Well,
2? Or what
yeah,
is
the PSA 2
what excites you right now?
is really exciting because,
I was excited when I saw it for the first time.
yeah, yeah, and it sounds really good.
I always wanted the rack one, but now it's actually
Yeah, and
accessible.
it's so big, and nobody uses racks.
No.
But the other thing we're really excited about it is the Steve Harris pedal,
Yes.
because obviously Iron Maiden is such a huge
Yes.
band, and Steve Harris is such a huge influence in so many players because he just came up with something unique, like his style of playing, his sound. The whole band is so unique. And same with Geddy Lee from Rush, like we have
Yes.
his signature pedal. So it's a lot to be excited about, to tell you that, because when I was growing up, these people were my heroes, and
Yeah.
looking up to them. And I never even imagined I'm going to be talking to them like I'm talking to you and in person too, and working with them to develop new products. And I'm basically excited about the full product line because everything we make, there's a story behind it.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool story, an exciting story, like with the Iron Maiden, how we got hooked up with them. It's not like, see, big companies, this is not a big company. We have like
No.
20 people total. But big companies have big budgets, so they like constantly solicit famous people.
Yes.
Like, oh, let's do
Yes.
this, let's do
Yeah.
that. For us, it works the other way. They actually call us and say like, oh, I need this or that, and we are like really honored and feeling great about getting these phone calls. And that's how it's happened with Iron Maiden. The bass tech called us that they have a smaller gig. Uh, Steve Harris has another band called British Lion,
Yeah, exactly.
and
Yeah.
and they cannot carry like their 8 412 EV speakers, but they want that sound. Can we do something? And we said let us try. So I built a pedal. They tried it and they were floored. They were like, this is amazing. So they used it for the tour for British Lion, and then when they played with Iron Maiden, they also included in that tour. So that was just a great story that the actual merit of the product made it happen, and not that we had money and we said like, here is X amount of dollar, please endorse this.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
they did it with like Michael Jackson and the Pepsi. If they get $1 million, Pepsi. We're really honored to work with these people and really excited. I mean, you can see
Yeah.
it on me. I'm excited, almost every day, come to work and work with these people and work on new products. and we are working on some new things that I cannot tell you because I always try to keep it secret.
Oh,
because,
of course.
Yeah, because
I was gonna ask you, but of course you can't tell me.
no. And you know, it's so funny because I'm looking at the internet and it's so many pedals out there now, so much
Yes.
competition. So
Yeah.
to have like to make a difference, it's really not easy. And if you give away what you're working on, then other people jump on the same bandwagon. So you need to like keep your close to your chest and reveal it at the last minute when you're ready to sell it already. Otherwise,
Yeah.
people just copy you and then make it much cheaper in China, as you said, you know, like quarter of the
Or,
cost or half the cost.
yes.
But people don't realize that many times those products are like a Rolex watch. You can make a Rolex in China for $30.
Yeah.
It's not the same watch. You know, it
No.
looks the same from a distance, or a strap. Like this strap behind me is like a 1965. You can
Mhm.
make a strap also in China for $100. It's not going to sound like that, you know. So, but you still lose business if people copy your product. So I always try to wait till the last minute to introduce a new product.
Yes, of course.
Um, so I'm gonna
Great. I'm really thankful for you for taking this time for
sure. As I
this
said, like it's still
with
less
me.
time than if I have to type this. I'm a terrible
Yes.
typist. So,
Oh,
yeah.
it's very generous of you.
Yeah. Okay. And then let's just exchange emails and see, you know, if we have any recording, and then we'll take it from there.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you so
Well,
much today.
thank you again, and talk to you soon. All right.
Right. Thank you, Andrew. Have a good day.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.